Hi guys, in this video I want to show you how to dimension your drawing after you've drawn something in the model space, particularly how to set up, add, change, and scale text and dimensions using the Styles Manager. Um, I'll show you how to basically dimension it in paper space and model space. Those are the two different ways that you could preview and print your results. First one will be paper space, and the second part of the video I'll show you how to do it in model space. So uh, to begin, suppose you've drawn something. Here I drew a window screen. Basically, we can picture a window casing and some fans here, and these are some expanded metal sheets, and this is a window um, that measures 36 by 48. And suppose I wanted to dimension this. So in the paper space, if I click on a layout, and this is what you'll see, it brings the model directly from the model space as you see it into the paper space. So if I wanted to dimension it as is or scale it, this is where I would do it. For the sake of this video, I will just not scale it to a particular scale, but I'll just dimension as shown. First, I want to get rid of these grid lines. To do so, I just double click inside the model space where I could zoom in and out, and I will click on these grid lines. I'll delete them, and I'll zoom in to what I want to dimension in the paper space. Then I double click out of the model space and into the paper space, which is around. I'll get rid of this box, this border that basically demarks model space and paper space by creating a viewports layer, and I'll make it non-visible. And I'll also create a dimension layer where I'll change the color to magenta. And that one I want visible. And I want to be in dimensions layer. So to get rid of this box, let me just change its properties to the viewports layer that I just made non-visible. Okay. I'm in a dimensions layer. I could pick on a dimension I want under the annotate tab. Suppose I wanted to draw a linear dimension, and just these two for now. And this is what I get. To change the view of it, you have to go to the Styles Manager, which under the Annotate tab here, this lower right corner, you click on this arrow. This is the Dimension Style Manager, where you could modify most of the appearance properties, such as under the units, decimal, I could pick fractional for the sake of this example, the precision, scale factor, fit the text, we'll make it an eighth inch. We'll leave most of these as they are. Arrow size, change it to an eighth. And we'll leave it for this argument, for this example, as such. So using, and then also to change the text, I could change the text font style by clicking on this little arrow, and you could pick a different font. Suppose I pick simplex, set current, yes, please. Um, and I can go about and dimension the various features in the paper space with the visual appearance of the dimensions and fonts as set in the dimensional styles manager. Let me just modify the extension lines beyond dimension lines, make them 10th offset. Okay. I don't want to dimension the diameter of the holes. To change the dimension of these, now these dimensions are brought directly from the model space. You can override them by double clicking on them. Note that if you override them, they will still stay overridden. So if you change something in the model space, they will not get updated in the paper space because it's an override. So you could change it by entering DD edit and select on it. Suppose here I wanted to add how many holes there are, 3, 6, 12. So 12 times 7/16. So that's basically pretty much how it goes in a paper space. If I wanted to do the same thing in a model space, I suppose I didn't want to deal with the paper space. It's a simple drawing with simple figure, a shop drawing of some sort, sketch. And I don't want to go through the entire setups in the paper space. And the scale of the font, the arrows, and such is really not critical. So I will leave those alone for a moment. But going to the model space, suppose I did the same thing in this model space and I go to, suppose I make some linear dimensions. You see they're tiny. If you zoom in, they're 36 and 48, but they're tiny. The reason is that the scale of these dimensions is the same as in paper space, which was 1. So this font is an eighth of an inch if that's what was set in the dimensions manager. To change it, and if you want to make it bigger, in a dimension styles manager, you will change under the fit tab, scale for dimensional features 10. Suppose we multiply by 10. Set that as current. Now all of a sudden you see that they're the features, each attribute got multiplied by 10. So now it's visible to clearly the 36 and 48. It's visible if I were to make it another dimension of, say, this angle. And you could dimension it right in model space just by changing that property in here in the fit scale for dimension features. Just change that to, if I would make it 15, it'll be even larger. If I wanted to print my results, if I click on the paper space, the model space got brought into the paper space. It always does. So everything looks the way it does because it shows the old paper space dimensions that we initially drew, and now the model space, you can't have both worlds. So you can either have the model space dimensions or the paper space dimensions You really can't do both, or then it looks like that. But suppose I wanted to print this model space. First thing I would do is set my limits of my drawing. Suppose my drawing was large, there's many things here, and I wanted to just zoom in on this particular area. I would change the limits of my print by typing in limits, because, for example, I don't know what the limits are set right now, but if I were to hit Control P and I select the printer and I want to print my limits and I center the plot, I preview it, it's not what we want to see when we print. This is what we'll print, but this is not how we want it to print. So the first thing we would do is change the limits to, say I want to print from like right about here, where the crosshair is, to about here. I could zoom in all, and it will zoom into those limits. That includes all visible objects. And then I hit Control P and I select the printer. I want to print to the limits, center the plot, and I preview it. Now, this is more legible, and this is what more likely I want to print. Just the model space with the dimensions in the model space. If I want to add some text to this, I could enter text by just typing text or end text. Specify the size. Now, since I'm in model space, almost a 1/4 inch would be very tiny. So I would, with my crosshair, I'll just pick a height, say that height, and rotation 0. And now I could type in vent, suppose. If I wanted to change that, you could double click it, go into it, or type in DD edit, and you could go in and change it. When I go to print this, again, this is more of something you would print, where the dimension size is legible and your font, etc. This is something that you would do for just a quick drawing, like a shop drawing or something simple, not a more involved drawing where it has many layers, different views, etc. In that instance, you would want to go into the paper space. To print the paper space, I'm gonna leave these, but I'll create another dimension layer. I'll put these on a different dimension layer. I'll hide it and I'll go into the paper space. So let me select this. Let me create a dim 2. I will change it to green, and I will turn it off. I will stay on this dimension layer, and now I'll change this magenta dim, the dimensions and text that are on a dimensional layer that we created before, to this new dimension that's turned off, that's not visible. So again, we change change the properties. We select what we want to change. Number 2 mouse button, type in LA for layer, and enter dim 2. Enter. Now they disappeared. They're not really gone because they're on a new layer that I just created. They're green now, and I just made them non-visible. Staying on this first dimensional layer with magenta, if I go to layout, generate. I would have. Why is it still visible? What I may need to do turned off. It was never changed here. I'm going to need to purge. It's not working. Let me delete them. Apparently it just brings it from the previous model space into here. Let me show the viewport and we'll start over. Alright, so if I double click inside the viewport, I'll zoom into the area of interest, which is that. I will hide that viewport, turn it back off, and I will select this dimension layer that I want to be on, and back in the Styles Manager, I will need to modify the fit, change it to 1. That's why I was showing large arrows a minute ago, because I forgot to change this back to 1. Anyhow, 1, set current, close it. And again, if I wanted to put some basic dimensional features, 36-inch, 48, and I will show an angle. And if I want to change this hidden line, change the scale, the line type, so change it to 2, change it to 4, 5, there we go, change it to a half. So now it looks more like what I want to show. And I wanted to print this paper space by, again, let me just say the drawing, Control P. I select the printer. In this instance, I want to print the layout, and I preview it. This is what we'll print from the paper space, that with dimensions that we created in the paper space. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show. Those dimensions are now brought back into the model space because they were drawn in the paper space. So the model space is always clear of any annotative dimensional or text. If I want to add a text line here, in this instance, if I type in text and I enter here, I need to specify the height, not visibly, but suppose I wanted 1/8 of an inch. I give it a name, vent, enter, and now it's 1/8 of an inch, true dimension, consistent with all the other dimensions. So that is all that I really wanted to show in this video. Thanks for watching.